Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Glory Glory Man United podcast. I'm your host, as always, Kyle Quinn. And joining me today is Phil Brown from Beyond the Pitch. How's it going, mate?
All good, mate. How you? Thank you.
Not too bad. Looking forward to a new season, but a bit frustrated with the couple of injuries that we've got
Mm,
already in pre-season and the stagnation of the transfer market for Manchester United. So we're going to talk transfers, and then we're going to preview the Community Shield, which is coming up tomorrow, which is obviously a glorified friendly. But United, of course, have signed Joshua Zirkzee, who has only joined training recently and will probably feature from the bench tomorrow. Lenny Yarrow, as everybody knows by now, has a metatarsal injury and is out for 3 months. And other than that, United haven't brought anyone else in. And we're now at the 9th of August,
mm.
and I think people are starting to get a bit nervous. In terms of outgoings, obviously Martial and Varane left on a free. And then the young Willie Kambala went to Villarreal. I think Alvaro Fernandez was sold to Benfica, but no other big seals, no big
Mason
seals at all
Greenwood.
really at this point.
Did you
Mason
forget it?
Greenwood, yes, of course, I
Mm.
forgot about him because he hasn't played for United for 2.5 years,
Did
so
they
it's
get
easy to
rid
forget
of
about.
Van de Beek as well?
Van der Beek for £500,000, um, and Mason Greenwood was at 26 million euros plus add-ons, I think, to Marseille. But United are really struggling to get people out the door now.
Mm.
The Wan-Bissaka deal is stalled. Uh, they're not able to shift Lindelof either, and they're operating on a one in one out basis. I think now in the market, and I think you said on your social media
Sorry, mate. What
that Manchester United have an issue that when like the Wan-Bissaka and Lindelof were given new contracts, if the plus one was activated,
This is something I want to correct. I did not say
yeah,
anything about Wan-Bissaka or Lindelof. It was very important. I said there were certain players that negotiated a deal where if the contract was extended where United had the option to extend it, and it was extended not with mutual consent, where the United extended it because they have the option to do it. Certain players negotiated an ability to where they got 50% of the fee. Now, I spoke to the one of the agents involved in that, but I didn't say about Wan-Bissaka. I did say about Lindelof. Um, I don't know if that's the case with them, but I know that it's been the case with certain players. Some of have already been sold that way, and so what people have to understand is it's down to the player too. And United want to sell players, but it's not easy to sell players because they want payoffs. If you're trying to push them out, they're not stupid. I mean, United tried to sell McTominay last summer. He didn't go. He ended up being a very important player. To us, the transaction's easy, but to them, it's not. This is their life. And we're like, oh, just walk away from a couple of million. Well, sure. I mean, we can say that because that's what we want, but they're thinking about their families, their future, things that we don't consider, and it's not that easy.
yeah. So not necessarily Wan-Bissaka and Lindelof then, with regard to getting 50% of the transfer fee. It's you said certain players and some of them have left
Mm,
already. Okay,
mm,
it's good to get clarification on that.
mm.
Um, but reports have said that Wan-Bissaka does want to pay off to leave because if he goes to West Ham, for example, obviously they might not pay as much in wages. So even some of the reports are saying as much as £7 million in payoff.
Well,
Would
the thing is with Wamasaka, I don't know if it would be that much less at West Ham. Wamasaka's never had a new contract at United, so
no.
I can't imagine that he's on astronomical wages. So I don't know if it's about wages. To be honest, I'm sure West Ham will be paying him decent money, but for him, it's about this is if you want to get rid of me, and you don't, my last they've got leverage with the last year of his contract. He will get more money if he waits a year. Ten Hag wants him out. Ten Hag has never really rated Wan-Bissaka, and United want him out. They all know that. I still think he will go. I doubt he will stay, but they also know that United want to send somebody else, so they're trying to use their bargaining power. I I, I know that he was open to going to Inter Milan as well, so I still think he'll go.
I think Wan-Bissaka being open to going to Milan is a bit strange considering he was homesick from London.
Yeah.
You know, interesting. Um, and if he does go to Inter Milan, Denzel Dumfries will probably come the other way.
Maybe.
Yet another Dutch signing, which is quite interesting. That's what I've been saying on this show as well. That in this is the first window where we've had a proper football department,
Mm.
and yet we seem to be signing more Dutch players than ever, and more. The whole coaching setup is now Dutch. Um, it seems to be that Ten Hag is certainly benefiting from some kind of a compromise, or else Dan Ashworth and Jason Wilcox certainly rate a lot of these Dutch players and coaches. Or maybe
Well,
both of those things are true.
anything that's happened since any of us have had football control is their decision. So, yes, these all look like people that Ten Hag would bring in anyway, but you know, they have control. So if they sign off on it, they want to do it. They have the right to say no. So it's their decision. They own it. So yes, Ten Hag may have wanted these people, may have recommended them, but you know, if Ineos sign off on it, then these are all Ineos's hires. These are all Ineos's recruitment. This is all their players. They've decided that they're the ones that they want, and they agree with Ten Hag on who they should bring in.
And if we've obviously signed, Ten Hag recommendations or Dutch players already, or players who played in the Dutch league. We apparently want a few more of those. If we get all these players in, then you can say that Ten Hag has his team in place, and he can have zero excuses if it doesn't go well. Would you go
I
along
know
with
where
that?
you're going with this. Well, I mean, that's Ineos's job to remove excuses, but it all depends on what they do. If they bring in one other player that he played with at Ajax, he managed at Ajax, but the squad's still massively short, then it doesn't matter, does it? They have to make sure that when they go into the season, that they are not short in key areas. They still have a concern at left back. They still have a concern at defensive midfield. They're going into a community shield with three fit defenders, one a right back that they want to sell, and two centre backs that almost certainly only one of which will actually be a starting centre back this season. So they have to make sure that by the end of this window, that squad is equipped to accomplish their goals. It doesn't, Ten Hag will not be allowed to repeat last season, of course, but the club also have a responsibility to make sure that the squad is adequate.
Do you see when we signed Lenny Yarrow, my optimism went through the roof.
Mm,
I was thinking, we've got a fantastic young talent here who Real
yeah.
Madrid and PSG wanted. Now, before the Community Shield has even started, our defence is already depleted, just as it was last season. Yeah, yeah, Yarrow's out injured, and the optimism just been drained from my blood, and I just feel as if it's an uphill task already with these injuries. And obviously the lack of signings. I do agree with you. I do think there'll be at least two more signings, maybe three, and we will get one or two out the door as well. Um, but it's not an easy start to the season. I mean, okay, Fulham at home, we should win that. But Brighton away and then Liverpool at home.
Mm.
Ten Hag needs a good start to this season, doesn't he?
It doesn't matter who they start against. Of course, he needs a good start. The injuries are not his fault. I mean, there's nothing you can do about Lenny Euro breaking a metatarsal. I mean, I've never known a manager in human history to be able to prevent a player from breaking a metatarsal. It happens. There's nothing you can do. It's bad luck. Um, Ahmad injury last season wasn't his fault. There's nothing he can do about that. Kobe Mainoo's injury last season wasn't his fault. These are contact injuries. There's nothing he can do about that. And there's players in that team that are now repeatedly getting injured. That this happens to far too much, where you start to question whether they're do they have the physicality anymore to be able to be fit on a consistent basis at this level? That's a big question. Um, the Lenny Oro's brilliant young defender. I think that was the first indication of the Ineos impact. Um, there's no way you need to get a defender like that in any other season. So in recent history, so yes, it's frustrating, but the last player who came to United signed for them had a broken metatarsal was Wayne Rooney, and that turned out all right. So it's frustrating. You want him fit, but in another weird sort of way, it could actually help him because it now gives him a few months to settle into Manchester, to do all the things you have to do off the field, get a house, bring family over, get settled in a way of life. By the time he does make his debut, a lot of the talk about his transfer fee and all the pressure will be taken off him. So, in a weird sort of sense, it could help him. So, if he starts against City and has a nightmare, the pressure on him will be unbelievable. So, in this way, it gives him a bit of time to settle in to the club, the city, sort out the things in his life that he hasn't been able to. As soon as he came, he was away to Glasgow. Then he came out here to LA. So for him, yeah, you want him fit and available, obviously, but in a weird sense, this might actually help him. But look, Taylor, the reality is, any of us are trying to clean up a mess that they didn't create. And for people, that aren't involved in that, everything seems so easy. Sell, buy, bring players in, but it's not.
No.
And you saw an article that came out the other day that showed just how close United came to filling FFP without a 40 million write off during COVID. Now, they're missing about the skin of their teeth, and United are a money losing business. So, based on they didn't get Champions League football, based on all the financial constrictions that apply to them, based on where they're at financially, they even if Qatar had bought the football club, they'd be in exactly the same position. It's hard, and Ten Hag wants to recruit. Ineos want to recruit. They've got deals put in place that they can activate, but it's not easy, man. And getting players out is at United is really hard because of the way their deals were negotiated before.
And Sancho is a prime example of that, really, because he's on enormous wages, and it's hard to find uh, Borussia Dortmund don't want him back,
Yeah.
or can't afford him. One of the two. I know PSG have an interest, and that hasn't completely gone away. That could still happen by the end of the window.
Look, a lot will happen in the last 2 weeks. Prices will come down, interest will get stepped up, and players, you know, I know we all want players in from the start of the season, but one of the biggest problems United have is moving players on that they panicked on, overpaid, gave long contracts to that are nowhere near commensurate with their value, and trying to move these players on is so difficult. So
Yeah,
they need to be precise in how they recruit, and they're doing the right thing. PSG come back to the table with the guard tag as soon as they walked away. This is exactly what they need to be doing. So they're smart people, and United will still bring a couple more players in.
yeah, and we're not alone. I mean,
Mhm.
Liverpool, Arsenal, and City have barely signed a player. I mean,
Mhm.
City might have signed one. The other two, I don't think have signed any thus far. So it's not just United, and obviously the Euros and the
I think
Copa
Arsenal signed
America.
Calafiore, didn't it? But
Yeah, the other day, yeah, I think, yeah, I you mention it, but yeah, it's not too many now. Um, we probably signed more than the rest of them so far with two signings.
I
So
think
it's
Villa and Chelsea have been quite active. But
West Ham as well.
I mean, United have spent still close to 90 million this summer.
Yeah. Um. So before we move on, I'm going to ask you, who do you think will leave between now and the end of August in United squad that's there at the moment?
It's really hard to say exactly. I would imagine that the two ones for me, I think will possibly happen. Scott McTominay and Aaron Wan-Bissaka. McTominay is worth a lot to United if they can sell him for FFP, PSR type boost. Um, for him. Does he want to go to Fulham? I don't know. I mean, he's a very good midfielder. Um, but I still have a feeling that will happen. I think Wan-Bissaka will happen. If he did get a decent offer for Sancho, they'd 100% sell him. But outside of that, man, I really can't think. This is what I mean. Like, if McTominay and Wan-Bissaka don't go, there's no obvious sales. I mean, obviously they were close to selling Lindelof. I don't know what his injury situation is right now, and I don't know what if anything's changed based on the Euro injury for United. But the players that are down to the last year of their contract, they want to sell. So I mean, which is they have to do, and the way they structure deals for players coming in will be totally different from what they done before. So there's a couple of players that they want. I think they may be able to do a midfielder whether they sell or not, but it'll change the bracket of midfielder that they're looking at without selling. And this is the reality United are in. We all want to see big signings, but there's a simple financial reality that's staring United in the face. It's staring every club in the face that it's just not as feasible as it once was.
Yeah, and Casemiro, I don't see that happening in this window. It seems like the Saudi interest has gone cold. Um, and I'm a little bit worried about this because he as a player looks done, and we're going to be saddled with him for another year. Now he will definitely get the odd goal because he's good at that. Very good at scoring goals from set pieces, and that's always a bonus. But in terms of his midfield qualities, they seem to be leaving him. Uh,
Well, it's a bit odd to me with him because usually when players start to lose their legs, it happens gradually. It doesn't
mhm,
happen instantly,
yeah,
and I'm completely bemused by it. There's people saying his legs are gone. Some people say it isn't. Some people say it's a tactic. Some people say there's other issues. I don't know. I would agree that, for a significant part of last season, he looked miles off. And he was doing things that you wouldn't expect from a professional footballer. I mean, he was really poor against Palace away, Arsenal when he played the Marseille for their goal. And I understand he's not a central defender. And I believe that Amrabat was a big part of why United won that cup final.
yes,
So, but he's at an inflection point in his career because I mean, if he genuinely can't match this pace, then he has some difficulties to confront. I mean, because I highly doubt he wants to be sitting on United's bench. And if United go out and sign someone like a Garte, who's sort of like a Javier Mascherano, then it's hard for me to see where Casemiro fits. Um, he wants to be successful. He in his head he doesn't feel like his legs are gone. But he definitely has stuff to prove this season.
yeah, and I'd love to see him get back to where he was in
Yeah.
his first season at
Mhm.
United, but it's hard to see that happening, to be honest.
Well, I think also, Kyle, a big part of this was the way when United were getting injuries in defence, the way it changed the way they played because there was no space in the back four, and so the back four and the gaps between the defence and midfield and forward were bigger because the defence couldn't sit high, and they had to sit deep because there was no pace. So, this is one of the reasons why, Wan-Bissaka, obviously, he's not great going forward, but they don't think he's the quickest in defense. Lissandro Martinez coming back is huge for that reason. Not only is he quick, he also steps up a little bit into that defensive midfield area, which helps Casemiro. Um, and I think was one of the reasons why they were hoping to pair Euro with him. Was Euro's really really quick. Plus he's 6'3". Xerxes 6'4" and Xerxes 6'3". So they prioritize physicality, which they needed from set pieces as well. So I think that. the injuries had a huge effect. The no having no left back had a huge effect on the balance of the back four, but also had a huge effect on Marcus Rashford.
Yeah, I think when everybody's fit and available, Leniaro and Martinez will be United's first choice pairing. But it will be interesting to know if he signed Delict. Will
Mm.
he be first choice actually? That'd be,
For me with Delict, this is interesting because Delict makes sense if I'm Harry Maguire and I'm looking at that going, so we send two centre backs, and the centre back that's already here is ahead of me because it's always going to be Martinez and someone else. Does Maguire want to be fourth, fifth choice centre back? I don't know. We asked this question last season, and he ended up playing most of the season. Um, I don't know. So Delict is a big, big, big signing. That's someone that you sign to start. And with Euro, I don't know if he would start every week because he's still very young, 18-year-old defender. When United bought Phil Jones at 19, they didn't want to start him at centre back. They started him at right back, and they putting him in the centre is a big decision for a young player, especially in that position. Now, football clubs are doing it more and more today because with financial rules, everything you have to use your academy. You see Barcelona playing Pau Barca in 17 centre back, Lamine Yamal 16. Um, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do there. And
yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure.
And I have to say, yeah, Harry Maguire is a wonderful backup to have. He probably won't view that as a compliment that he wants to be a starter, but in terms of backup, yeah, he probably couldn't ask for better. He was excellent last season when he was
It,
called upon.
the problem with Maguire, he was excellent last season because United played a deep line in
Yeah,
defence. And the problem with Big Maguire is if United have everyone fit and they play the way they want to play, they're playing a high line.
yeah,
And when he was playing in Ten Hag's first season, when they were playing a high line, because most of the players were fit, that's when he had problems because he's not lightning quick, and very, very good, strong physically, like Wan-Bissaka with the ball in front of him. He's technically not superb, so it's about making sure. This is one of the issues we talk about with United, is that you have to have the right players if you want to play a certain way. You can't turn around and play a high line with Maguire and Johnny Evans at centre back. You're going to get destroyed.
yeah. The issue with Maguire and Wan-Bissaka,
So
the issue with Maguire and Wan-Bissaka is that they are the previous manager signings, and Ten Hag doesn't really want them. Um, they don't fit into the way he wants to play, as you've touched upon. Um, so, so I'm going to ask you for predictions on who do you think United will get over the line in this transfer window? Who do you think they'll bring in between now and the end of August?
hard to say exactly, because they're looking at multiple different options. They're working on simultaneous deals at the same time. So they're looking at Agarte. Obviously, I think they'll bring in a defensive midfielder. I think they'll bring in Mazraoui because he gives them versatility at right back, left back. Um, they'll definitely sign a defensive midfielder and sign a fullback. Someone that can play both sides. I'm not super keen on that because Dallo can play both sides, but he's much better on the right than he is on the left. I'd rather get an out and out left back. But this is the reality. They have to have versatility. I think whether of the players that they're looking at, maybe another centre back would be the least priority. If they're going to get two out of three, it'll be a full back and a defensive midfielder. But I don't think they will sign unless they can get players out like Lindelof and what have you. I don't see the lick coming unless they can get um, uh, um, a major player out that brings in decent revenue.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely essential that United sign a defensive midfielder in this window, as Casemiro is not reliable anymore, and United really need that. And we, as you've touched upon, we won the FA Cup final largely because of Amrabat.
Well, I think he was definitely an important part of it. I would say largely because of him, but I definitely think it was big. He was an important part. I think Martinez was a big part of it too, and the fact that Ten Hag played with a false nine position, which I think United are definitely better playing with.
Well, just on that, do you think there's still a chance that if United don't get Ugarte over the line, do you think Amrabat could be brought back in again by United?
Um, it's always possible, but clearly he's not someone they really, really want, or they would have pursued it. Um, so I mean, if they're in a similar situation what they're in last season, I don't know if Fiorentina would do the deal the same way. They'd have to buy him. If they have to buy him at around 20, 25 million, I just think United will look somewhere else at a player that they really want for 30, 35. Maybe a Sander Berge. I know people are not particularly happy about that, but no, but hold on a minute, okay, right? Because this is people that just because he played for Sheffield United and got relegated, he's not someone that Sander Berge is a very good player. And what's more, before he went, before who did he play before Sheffield United? Did he sign for first? Or before he went to Sheffield United and went to Burnley. Before he went to Sheffield United, everyone wanted him, and so he's not a bad player. People snuff their nose at that and think, oh, he's crap. Let me tell you, you see that position? It's really hard to find players in that position. Rodri's the exception. But Arsenal have Jorginho in there, Declan Rice in there, United have Kobe Manu in there. But the old ball winning style midfielder is really hard to find. Liverpool are playing Trent Alexander Arnold in there. Right? They had Thiago in there, they had Fabinho in there. It's really hard to find that ball winning midfielder because the game is changing so much. So finding a player, people turned their nose up at Ji Sung Park as well because he wasn't the super. But you need somebody in there that is okay with doing the dirty work, that makes it simple, that lays the ball off, that gives you legs, that isn't a superstar, that is so that Kabi Manu can do his thing. So they're not easy to find, mate. They're very, very hard. And you look at England, look at the problems they had in centre midfield. Right? I mean, they started that tournament playing Trent Alexander Arnold in there. Gareth Southgate's complaining because don't have a Calvin Phillips, right? They're trying to, play different Conor Gallagher, different players in there, because those players are really hard to find now. So, you know, I wouldn't turn my nose up at it, mate, to be honest.
He's actually been relegated twice with Burnley and Sheffield
Yeah,
United.
but Roy Keane was relegated with Forest. So
Yeah,
it's
but
the
he's
players
not
don't
Roy
a
Keane.
player doesn't get relegated, the team does. Doesn't matter how good one single player is. I can give you Michael Carrick was relegated with West Ham.
He's
It
he's
happens. This is not because of didn't get relegated because of Sander Berg. They got relegated because they had other players that weren't good enough.
yeah, but he's not 20. He's 26. If he was
So that's
really
fine.
if he's
That's
really
right in the
elite,
creek.
if he was at United's level, he had been picked up by a much bigger club than Burnley by now. Just
Well, first of all, Burnley paid good money for him, and secondly, as we've been saying, there's not a lot of clubs on the road with huge amounts of money. I mean, clubs are really struggling right now to buy players, and so it's not like it was 3 4 years ago. If this is 3 4 years ago, Sander Burrs is going for 50 60 million, no problems, right? And so it's you this is not an easy position to fill. I mean, look, United chased De Jong for years, for a year. This is a position that's really difficult. Arsenal paid 100 plus million for Declan Rice. I don't know if he's £100 plus million footballer. City brought Nunez in there. They brought Calvin Phillips in there. I mean, they've been trying themselves to fill that position beside Rodri, and it's really, really difficult. De Bruyne is getting older. They're having issues filling that part of the midfield too. And United got lucky with Manu coming through, but this is not an easy position, and there's not a ton of options.
I suppose if it came down to Sonderberg and Amrabat, I, s- I suppose what the United are thinking is that Berg is probably better on the ball than Amrabat, and that might be the reason why they would go for him.
Well,
Um,
one thing about it, mate, is Sonnenberg didn't just come up out of nowhere. This will be someone that United will have deep scouting reports on. This is someone that they'll have watched over and over again. I mean, Burnley's issue last season was scoring goals. You know, they were seeing goals too, but they their goal marriage wasn't great in goal, but they it's really hard. Company wanted to play a certain way, and they didn't have the quality to do that in the Premier League. And so, it's very easy to rate everyone off as shite because they got relegated. I mean, Jonathan Greening won a Champions League medal. You know, Steven Gerrard, never won a Premier League medal. So, it's judging teams is not always the same as judging a player. And I understand United fans want the fancy foreign, Garte or Fofana and stuff like that there, but um, you know, it's not it's I wouldn't be totally against someone like a Sonderberg in there.
It's not going to happen this year, but long term, a signing that I would love to get in midfield is Adam Wharton from Crystal Palace. What's your thoughts on that one, Phil?
Well, I mean, he's a talented young kid. I would like to see him can perform consistently for another year in the Premier League, where he's at that prospect stage where he's exciting, he's a good young player. Palace very, very very good scouting. They know what they're doing. Dougie Friedman knows what he's doing. Palace is a perfect club for him for another year to really watch his development. And now there's expectation on him where, he was a bit of an unknown. Obviously, Wilcox knows him very, very well since he was at Blackburn, knows all about him. So I would like to see him for another year. I think that Cole Palmer would be gettable in a year because I think Chelsea are going to be a total mess. And I don't think he's going to stay there for another year and go through this. So I think a year from now, if United can have a successful season, finish the Champions League spots, you could see real progress. Uh, I could see them going after people like Wharton and Cole Palmer next summer.
You're teasing me now, Phil.
Well, he wants to
Um,
go to United, so he's a United fan.
yeah, that's right. And what a player he is! Unbelievable
Mm,
talent. We seen it even in the Euros final, just how he can change a game from the
yeah,
bench. Um, so I'm gonna move on to the FA Community Shield, which is obviously glorified friendly, but this is going to be
mm,
even
it's more than
more.
that now.
It's going to be tomorrow.
Fair play if you win.
Tomorrow, both teams are going to be missing so many of their first teamers. A lot of the first teamers on both sides have only returned to training on Monday. I understand that City, Spain, and England players are still not back from holiday. Um, so we're going to see a lot of young players on both sides, and we're not really going to get an indication of how good both teams are at this
Mm,
moment in time. Uh, but I am excited to see uh, Joshua Xerxes probably for the first time, probably from the bench.
yeah.
Um, and there is a chance here for certain United players who've played all of pre-season to start against Fulham if they can perform well
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow. Mason Mount being one.
Mm.
Um, Harry Amos as well. Now Luke Shaw already he's only returned to training already. He's a doubt for tomorrow's game.
Well,
I
I think
can
he's a doubt because he only returned to training. So I don't think that United. I don't think it's an actual injury. I just think that because just like Xerxes, everyone else, because he's just come back.
but we all know it's inevitable. He's going to get injured at some point during the season. Uh, so I can, if we don't bring anyone else in at left back or who can
Mm.
cover left back, I can see young Harry getting quite a few games this season.
Yeah, I think that if United kept him and give him some game time a season, he's still only 17. It'd be okay. Like the likes of Toby Collier, who's 20, he needs to play regularly. He's at that point where he needs to start getting regular game time. Harry Moss is 17, so if he stayed a year for United, didn't play every week, played a few Premier League games, some Europa League games, Carabao Cup, he would help him. Um, but he's 17, Kyle. And the problem at United is that is never remembered if you make mistakes. If the mask concede, it makes a mistake for someone to concede. You know how the kids are going to be. The kid's going to get destroyed. In this, what you just said there about the game, we're not going to really get a feel for how good teams are because they're not 100%. None of that will matter if you need to get better. Not everyone, but a lot of these dickheads will be online, fuck Ten Hag fraud and all this. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. No one's going to turn around. Well, I mean, people have a brain will, but all the rest of the reactionaries are going to go, oh, it's Ten Hag shit, any also shit. This guy's shit, a massive shit, oh my God. This is exactly what you're going to see. Right now, if they win, it'll be well, it's the glorified friendly. But if they lose, right, it'll be an absolute disaster, and that burn the club to the ground. Then he also another all this shit, all this nonsense, noise, this garbage, right? So Ten Hag needs to build momentum. This game isn't meaningless, especially if you need to lose heavily. If you need to lose heavily, there will be no context. There will be no one who will be forgiven in the media and what have you. It's going to put them under pressure quickly. It'll not accelerate signings because any of us are too smart for that. They're not going to react like that and go, you don't react to that. You respond, you don't react. They're not going to go, oh shit, we got to go out and make a bunch of new signings now, like United did after the Brentford game. But and I think there's some people want United to lose in the hope that it will provoke. I mean, these are idiots. Um, to making signings because that won't happen as a result of that. But Ten Hag is under pressure, and I thought the cup final he executed a perfect tactical plan. I haven't seen anyone do that to City, not even Real Madrid. They were thoroughly deserved winners. They didn't concede a whole bunch of shots. If Rashford's goal had counted, they'd have been 3-0 up in the cup final. Um, and they thoroughly deserved the FA Cup, and he deserves credit for that.
Yeah, I think we just have to ignore the idiots online if we lose tomorrow. But I don't think we will be hammered tomorrow because
I don't think so
Cit-
either.
City are going to have a real makeshift team themselves. Very young back four are going to play for City, I think, tomorrow as well. So um, I wouldn't be surprised if United win tomorrow, to be honest. And Ten Hag will want to win this, of
Of
course,
course.
and build on momentum from the cup final and get another result against City, even if they are both
To be
heavily
honest,
rotated teams.
what I just hope for is that don't have any further long-term injuries
Injuries.
to key players, because that's the thing that worries me. Is that I can see Martinez down, or so where that would be far more consequential than anything else tomorrow. If they win or lose, if they get a key injury to a particular player, that is seriously demoralizing, and that is where Ten Hag needs some luck.
Every game now, I've got anxiety about injuries. That's the stage that it's got to. You're just afraid to see anyone go down. Another player, I think, even regardless of what happens tomorrow, I think he's going to start against Fulham, and that's Amad Diallo. He's played his way into the team, and for me, he's part of the starting 11 now. Would you go along with that?
Yeah, I think he's been excellent. I think really, really encouraging. I think I probably one of the highlights of preseason. He's exceptional at the back post. He can finish. He's got great feet. He's got great balance. His vision. He creates. Very, very encouraged by him, and I'm glad United did not sign Elise. I'm glad that Ahmad's going to be given a chance.
Yeah, and just on how Hamas, we were talking about how much you were talking about how much Rashford missed Luke Shaw last season. Um, with Hamas, even though he's very very young, he will provide balance though down the left hand side, provide open
Who?
overlapping
Sorry?
run. Harry Hamas,
I thought you said Hamas. Sorry, I'm like, wait, what?
Harry Armas, sorry, yeah.
Are we letting that now hear that? Sure, we'll have no Old Trafford. Go
Yeah. Lost my train of thought now.
No, I might as well. I mean, look for left back for Rashford. Um, Obviously, that's a big issue, because you remember when Luke Shaw came back, was away to Wolves. Rashford scores in 4 minutes, right? Hoyland scores. Balls being cut across the byline, tapped in. The difference was massive. United against Luton, 2-0 up in no time. And then he gets injured, and then everything changes. So having a left back, someone called Fernandalo could play there, it helped Marcus a lot. Having a proper left back that overlaps, that allows you to attack certain spaces, that doesn't mean you have to sit deep and defend, is so important.
Yeah,
If and it's important for Garnacho on the right too to have a right back that can overlap.
yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, regardless of his age, I would rather have Harry Armas in there instead of I want Saka or Lindelof playing left back, because I want to have balance down that side, and Rashford would benefit from that as well. So if Luke Shaw and Malacia are both out injured, which is very possible, I would rather play young Harry in there than a
Mm.
right-footed player.
Like watching young Harry Mass on tour, very very good. There's certain things you can see that he lacks experience in, which is you should expect with a 17-year-old. Right? There's just some awareness of players coming behind him. The Gabby Jesus school, which I think was offside anyway. There was, I think it was a goal against Battis where comes in behind the mass, and these are just little things you have to learn. That for him, it's about game experience. And you can do that if you're in a really solid, consistent, experienced back four that can help you. If you're playing in a back four that's constantly changing, that's very difficult for a young defender. So I think that he has tremendous potential, enormous, and he's a confident young kid. Um, I think it will help him to play alongside a left-footed centre back and Martinez, because he will naturally cover those spaces that if he gets caught out from behind, going playing high, whatever, um, it'll help him. But yeah, look, I mean, I would rather keep Harry Hamas than bring in than and just to loan him out and go with Shaw and Malacia, because you're correct in saying that you should expect Shaw will not be fit the whole season. It would be really a massive shock if he was, and I feel bad for Luke in that sense. It's not his fault. And with Malasia, we just don't know what we're going to see with that guy. I mean, it's again unbelievably tragic.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I remember
So
when Gabriel Ince got injured, Kyle, he was never the same player again. And I don't know, they could sort of see a bit of that in Malasia. Or I'm like, is this a Gabriel Ince injury where he's been out for so long? By the time he comes back, there's the player that was there. I mean, Malasia's still relatively young, but it's a long time to be out, and then come back. And he was a backup left back for Holland at the World Cup. So is he, even when he's 100% fit, is he good enough? I don't know. He was, he played well in some moments last season or the previous season, no doubt. But it's a big question mark.
yeah, if he misses another entire season, I think that's it. I think
Off. There's no time season's over. He can't miss another entire season. He can't miss another 2 months.
no, it really doesn't look good. So if we don't get Ugarte over the line, um, do you see a situation that he keeps Toby Collier and uses him, plays him in maybe 25 games this
Mm.
season? Or is that too
Yeah.
many youngsters in one team?
See, that's not. It's just. I mean, he would have to keep Collier, but whether that's the right thing for Collier or not, Collier needs to be playing every single week now. He's 20 years of age. He's not 17 like Amash. This is where you really need to get rhythm in your game, get consistency, play every week, mentally know what it's like to prepare every week to play, so that you grow physically, you grow mentally. And if you are not getting out of 20, you know, you have to leave the club you're at, first of all. Um, this is really the point in his career where it's like, this is when you need to be playing. And, he was saying on the tour, one of the things he needs to improve on is in possession. Um, and so you know, these are risky positions for players. You don't really want to take a risk on someone in that position because if they're 5% off it, that is so costly. And I would rather see someone like Collier in an ideal world go on loan to maybe maybe a team at the top of a championship or a team just the bottom quarter of the Premier League to see him play every week at that level. I mean, James Garner, there's been so many players in there that have shown so much potential that never were just short of the quality you need to play every week. And I think Collier's in that position where it's like he's had a really good preseason. He's put himself in the picture, but ideally, United need to sign a defensive midfielder that's ready to play there every week, and then maybe loan Collier out.
Yeah, I think he'd be loaned out if we get Ugarte, but if we don't, then he'd probably stay. Um, some just on that, some United fans were calling for James Garner to come back. You know, when he played well for Everton last season, people had seen how good he was, and thought, oh, why is he why was he sold for absolute buttons? He should be back at Old Trafford. Um, I'm in two minds about that one. You know, I think he's a very good Premier League midfielder, but is he a
If
Champions
James
League
Garner had
midfielder?
never
I'm not
played for
sure.
United, Kyle, if James Garner had never have played for United, would anyone be saying this?
No, I don't think so.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah, so what I'm saying, he's a very good Premier League level midfielder, but I don't think he's a Champions League level midfielder, in my opinion. But some people might disagree with me on that. Um, so would you make of Tottenham signing Dominic Solanke for £65 million? That's an interesting one.
I don't think it's a player that changes anything for them, to be honest. I mean, I don't think he's a player that takes them to the next level. It's a lot of money. He had a decent season last season. It took him a few years to find that level of form at Bournemouth. Um, but part of the problem, Kyle, is the central striker position, same as the defensive midfielder position. It's a really hard position to fill because there's not a lot of great options out there. Secondly, with the way teams play today, that position's almost dying. I mean, I was listening to Luis Saha talk about this, saying Cristiano Ronaldo was really the first inverted winger. And now, so many teams play this way that it's really hard to get a number 9 into the game because these wingers are not playing to feed a striker. They're cutting inside and shooting, and they're occupying the same space as strikers. And and it's really difficult. I mean, this is one of the reasons why United bought Xerxes is because he plays deeper and almost the way Weghorst played. I mean, this is one of the reasons why Weghorst was successful at United because he played deep, he linked well, and they weren't relying on him for goals. This is a bit of a tricky one with Hoyland because Hoyland is a much better player outside the box in Holland. He's quick, he's got good feet, he scores goals from lots of different positions, so you could still see Hoyland working. Um, Holland in the United team would be a disaster because United don't create enough. And with that position, they get suffocated. I mean, Holland hasn't scored in a semi final for City. And when he gets into big games, he gets suffocated, by the best teams, Real Madrid, even in a cup final against United. You'll see us a lot. And he's a brilliant striker, but it's just really hard with that position when you play inverted wingers, especially when you're playing a left footer on the right and a right footer on the left because they're going to cut in. They're not going to go wide and put the ball in. I mean, this is one of the reasons why United couldn't get Palestri in the team is because he is an old-fashioned winger that goes down the line and puts the ball in, where Ten Hag doesn't want that. And see him so with Spurs, with Son, young men, and with Charleston, they're occupying that position. Harry Kane worked because he dropped deep. He could score goals from different positions, but it's a really tricky position to fill.
which makes the inclusion of Van Nistelrooy in the coaching setup very interesting, because all his career he was used to being fed uh, by crosses from the right and the left,
Mm,
like David Beckham and Ryan Giggs. Now, with, as you say, wingers play on the opposite side now, and they cut in and shoot.
hmm.
So what does he say to likes of Hoyland and Xerxes when they're in the team?
Well, I
How does
mean, they obviously Van is a smart guy, understands football, so he understands that. Look, it's not going to be like it was before. If you look at who the 35, 40 goal a season players are, it is the likes of Ronaldo. It's not the old fashioned number nines anymore. They're dying. That's why Lewandowski's still playing, and you look at Real Madrid, Vinicius Junior. Their number nine was Hostelu. Mbappe. It's these are the players now that are Rashford getting 30+ goals for United 2 years ago. This is where your goals are coming from now. So for the legs of Hoyland and stuff, they're going to have to drop deep, pick a ball up, and understand that you're not going to get these balls constantly across the box anymore in the same volume that you were before. However, this is exactly why you need good natural left and right backs, because they will give you that ball, and if they
yeah,
overlap, they will give the striker chances. They will be the one that brings the ball across. Man, if you look, remember Copenhagen away, ball across the box, Holland taps it in, right? Galatasaray, all that, ball across the box, tap in, right? This is, Rashford put the ball across straight onto Hoyland's head, goal, right? Second goal in that game at home, he's able to pick a ball up, run at you, and has good variety to his game. So what they're going to have to tell him is, look, you can't be a goal poaching number nine and expect to score 30 goals a season. You got to come out, occupy different positions, and pick a ball up. And thankfully, he has good variety to his game.
yeah. Between Boxing Day and the end of February, Hoyland was scoring in every single game.
Mm-hmm.
But during that period, Luke Shaw was in the team. Martinez came back, so that probably helped with the balance of the side.
And the fullbacks in modern football for strikers is massive because they are not natural goal scorers. Plus, they're playing on their natural side. So you're not having the right-footed left back. This is why it's. I mean, I don't know how many times I saw United last season attack down the left when Wan-Bissaka played there, and immediately the attack would stop, pull back, and go back into midfield. And this is something that Anthony does too, and it's very difficult to break teams down when you're slow on a counter attack. So normally you have the left back bombing on, put that ball across. And how many times did United concede goals last season when the fullback got to the byline, pulled the ball back, and scored? So I mean, every other week. It was a big issue for any manager to deal with. Not, I mean, I said this when United lost Shaw. It was in February. I said there is no chance United can qualify for the Champions League. None. You cannot win at this level, right? Um, and beat teams at this level by not if you don't have a left back. It's absurd.
Yeah, I totally agree, and it was so frustrating as a fan knowing that we weren't going to have a left back week in
Well,
week out.
especially when they told Ten Hag to let Regulon go. Now, that to me is like an absolutely unforgivable. I could have cost Ten Hag his job because he was told to let Regulon go was from based on advice from the medical team. That to me is just at a football club that size, you can't find the money to keep Regulon in the team for another 3-4 months. I mean, it's unforgivable.
Yeah, it was absolutely ridiculous. And obviously he thought that Malasia was coming back, but that never materialized. Uh,
Well, when you look at how United medically handled Malasia, if I was to have Malasia anyway, that it was really really poor. And to be fair, any of us have uh, done a lot to address this issue, and they have overhauled the medical department and the procedures and the medical science department and the facilities and the way injuries get handled. I mean, truthfully, United just didn't have enough staff to handle long-term injuries, so they prioritised short-term injuries.
All right. Right. So I would like to win tomorrow, but it's obviously more important that we get the 3 points against Fulham. Um,
Mm.
Bruno Fernandes um, is only just back in training this week, so I don't expect to see him starting tomorrow. I think Mason Mount will start tomorrow, but no doubt Bruno will want to play against Fulham and start that game,
Of course.
regardless of how match fit he is, because that's the type of player that he is. Wants to play every single minute of every game. So it's going to be up to Mason Mount tomorrow. I think Mason Mount needs a big game tomorrow to keep his place in the team. Otherwise, he'll just drop out for Bruno. I think. You
Well,
know.
I think he needs a big season, because
Yeah.
we're still asking questions as to why he is here. And he's obviously a very good footballer, but I don't. He needs to be scoring more goals. He'd a lot of good chances on tour that he didn't take. Um, there's needs to be a better end product from Mason Mount. This is a massive season for him. He can't have an injury-ridden season with very little goals and assists. Otherwise, you need to have to look at getting rid of him next season. The end next season, I think this is where, like him, Anthony, what have you, are really on trial. It's like, okay, you got to show why you're here, why you should be here. And I still can't understand why United signed Mason Mount. I like him. I really want him to work. Ten Hag, obviously, United obviously know why they did. I don't. Um, but it's this is a big season for him, and these are going into this Community Shield. To me, it's not a friendly to them. United players have to look at this like the season starts tomorrow, because it really does, and they have to go out there and play that in exactly the same way they would as a cup final. This matters. It matters for morale. It matters for players playing for places. It matters, to put a marker down. If they get beat and beat comfortably, it's going to look terrible. It's going to sap morale. It's going to, players are going to lose confidence going into the season. All that preseason optimism, all of a sudden, all the old demons come back, and it's going to be like, oh, we're nowhere near City. United cannot approach a season like that, and they have to approach the season with optimism, and the importance of a victory tomorrow for psychological reasons. For that alone, is it matters.
Yeah, it does, and hopefully we can get the result tomorrow, even if it's on a penalty shootout. It'd be great to win another trophy, as
Mhm.
Mourinho would say. Mourinho would definitely count tomorrow as a
Yeah,
trophy. So it's been a pleasure as always to have you on the show, Phil.
my pleasure, mate. Thank you very much. Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me, Kel. Good luck, everything, mate, and hopefully you'll have me back later on the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Please, everybody, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and get more of your thoughts in. And I will get back to as many of those as possible. And I shall see you again then, Phil.
Good luck, mate. Thanks, Kel. All the
All right.
best, man. Thanks for everyone for listening. Don't forget to follow my friend here. Download the shows. Good stuff. Take it easy, mate.
All right. See you later.